We're live now, Chair.
Yep, we're live, Chair. Yep.
Okay, good to go. Aye. So, Chrysler, welcome everybody, and we're just about quorate, so able to start the meeting. Apologies from Debbie, I believe, Chris.
Correct, yes.
And we may see Ian shortly, but we're going to start on the meeting. So, declarations of interest, I don't think there's anything obvious there. So we'll move straight to the minutes of the board held on 9th of December. That's not so long ago. It's that meeting was twice deferred, I think. So and the fact that it was deferred is mentioned in the minutes. Does anybody want to propose a true record, or shall we go through them first?
I'm assuming that's appeared on everybody's screen now.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's great. Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
Useful. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
A few of these items carry forward to some of the papers later on, Chair, as well. So.
Yes. Yeah, quite a lot. So this will reappear in new updated
Yeah.
version. I think just to mention the cyber security, has that gone now to the committee?
It hasn't, no. One, because of timings. I think the board met in December to consider it.
Yeah.
So timing hasn't quite worked yet. But
No.
Actually, I have interest. Over the past week or two, I've attended a few events on cybersecurity and business continuity. So I might just revisit it to make sure that what's in the policy aligns with some learnings I've had over the past week or two. But the intention is to try and get that published as soon as possible. But yes, it'll go when ready.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think I think I've seen these minutes before myself and had the chance to comment. So I'm happy with them. Is everybody else happy to confirm as a true record?
Yeah, happy to do that, David.
Thank you. All right. Everybody happy to move on then?
Chair, please could we just have a formal proposer and seconder? Yes, please.
Yeah. Anybody seconding?
I'll propose then. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can second then as well. Yeah.
All in favour. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Right. And then we move. Excuse me. Moving on to the next item is the meeting of the committee of 27th of November. There's also been a subsequent meeting on the 5th of December, and I presume those minutes will come to us our next meeting. Is that right?
I'm assuming that's the case, Chair. Yeah, the November meeting was primarily to seek approval for the annual report. And then the December meeting was the formal quarterly meeting of the committee. So those will follow in due course.
Yeah, I think there may be more meat on the December minutes, but the November ones are presented here. You can see I was there representing you at the meeting. It was more than just the annual reports this time, Chris. It's usually just the annual report, but there were presentations from the pool oversight manager and investments manager as well. So we had a bit more, and I gave them an update on governance as well at that meeting.
Correct. Yes, you did. Yeah.
So other than that, I think there were a few issues raised with regard to investment, and I think we could be getting better investment returns, but I think that everybody's happy to steady as she goes now, while we're navigating the waters of pooling changes. So it's not the time to shuffle our cards as we navigate these difficult waters, I think. Okay, we don't need to approve those, do we, Carrie? And just note them for
Yes, Chair, just noting them.
information. So, any questions? Are we happy to note those? I can't see any hands up. So
Happy to.
yeah, happy to note. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you. Moving on then to Chris's operational update.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Board will be familiar with this one. This is one that's presented at every board meeting, produced primarily to give you an update on what's happened since the last meeting in terms of the regulations and changes to the scheme. I could produce a whole report just to cover this whole meeting, to be honest, because there is so much going on at the minute. So this report is just attempting to try and capture that at some high level for you. So I'm going to work my way through it, probably bullet point by bullet point, but I'm going to wrap 2.2 up with items 2.5 and 2.6 as well, because they're essentially changes to legislation. So I thought I'd just cover all those under one part, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So if we start on 2.3 then, this is just to update board that there's been some consistency and some discussions at the National Pension Officer Group level, so the National POG, on McLeod and data and whatnot, and there's been some consistency decided on how we send data to each other, because McLeod impacts on service and people move between funds. It's important that we're consistent in sending data between these funds. So that's been welcomed and is something we're working through. One thing that has changed since the last board meeting is we have appointed a projects officer. Board will be aware that we've been recruiting over the past, well, a few years actually. And one of those posts is a project officer, and they've been looking primarily at McLeod since they joined us in mid-December, with the Christmas break in between as well. So we're just working through the McLeod project now to identify current position, what's left, working toward the timescales that the government want us to at the end of August. So just to try and understand where we are, what we've got left to do. It's safe to say it still remains a challenge for the LGPS to meet the timescales that the government expect. And that's primarily just due to workloads and caseload. There's an awful lot going on in the LGPS, and McLeod's something that we're all trying our best to work through. An update really is that since the regulations took effect in October, I think it was 2023, the team have been incorporating McLeod into business as usual cases. So every retirement or every benefit that's calculated, the McLeod work is done and dusted. So on a going forward basis, we're up to date. And the challenge that we're facing really is in respect to these backlog cases. And what I mean by those are those that have already been calculated and need revisiting. Essentially what the team have to do is they have to revisit the pay and the hours and do a test to see whether scheme members are better off under the old arrangement or the new arrangement. So that work's ongoing and will continue. But I'll come into that in a bit more detail later on when we look at item 14, the performance metrics, if that's okay. But on a high level, it's essentially just to say that we're looking at it in some detail now, and there'll be some more reports coming to board in the near future on that. 2.4, again, this is a roll forward from the previous paper. You will have seen this before, but I thought this is important because what these bullet points here are painting is a picture that the LGPS is growing. And I've had sight of I've been involved with some conversations around what's happened over the last 5 years within the LGPS, and the trend is upwards essentially, and that's in terms of membership growth. I think it's correct in saying that over the past 5 years or so, membership of the LGPS has increased by 10% or so. Obviously, with more members, more administration, more data to manage, it's important that we keep on top of the data quality that the regulator expects. But perhaps a bigger surprise is that there's been approximately a 30% increase in the number of retirements in the past 5 years or so out of the LGPS. perhaps we shouldn't. I've mentioned surprise. Perhaps we shouldn't be surprised because the funds are maturing, the age profile is moving older, and the more older members you have, the more retirements you will have. But a 30-odd% increase over 5 years is quite significant, particularly when you've got the McLeod work to do. So that's these additional paychecks, these additional hours calculations. It is having an impact on the administration team. And those numbers that we see on there, we have seen mirrored at a local level as well. So the national trend is being mirrored by the local Powys Fund as well. So we're also seeing this growth in retirements and in membership as well. And I think this is the first year that we've tipped over into having more pensioner members than active contributors at this point in time. So again, it's not uncommon across the LGPS, but it just requires a different approach to your investment strategy in terms of your age profile and whatnot. So the fund's maturing, the scheme is maturing as a whole, and that's just reflected in these bullet points here. Moving on to 2.5, 2.6 and 2.2. As I mentioned, they're all covering legislation changes. 2.5 and 2.6 are just there to inform board that the fund responded to a couple of consultations that the government put out towards the end of the year. It's just the detail is in the actual paragraphs itself, but it's just to make board aware that we have actually responded to part of the process. We did submit the fund views, one via the National Pensions Officer Group. So in 2.5, that's an administration change to the regulations. That was done on an all Wales basis. And the 2.6 Fit for the Future technical consultation response, we submitted as an individual fund, but in line with our colleagues across Wales. There was nothing in there that was vastly different to what was being echoed across Wales as well. The outcome of these changes in the legislation are, if I'm correct, 4 or 5 statutory instruments that are due in 2026. So that's potentially 4 or 5 changes to regulations coming this year. That's on top of pension dashboards, on top of the McLeod remedy, which we're all working through, and on top of the work that we're doing outside that in respect to the investments and the investment management company and whatnot. So we're already feeling pressure in terms of what's expected of us. Yet we know there's 4 or 5 additional changes coming this year. So I'm just highlighting this for board, just to be aware that we might have to keep an eye on things again, just to monitor how things are progressing and identify any pinch points and whatnot and work them through. But that was just I wanted to bring board up to speed, the potential impact that this year might bring on the fund as well. And that's across all the pillars, the administration, governance and investment. I'll just pause there unless there's any questions from anybody. I have skipped through those, but hopefully that's clear.
Yeah, I can only second that, Chris. It's a time of unprecedented change for the LGPS, really. And just to note, I missed out my own item and went straight to you with your update, so I'll do my chair's update afterwards. But on 2.6, the MHCLG consultation, just to inform members, I was in touch with Chris on more than one occasion to sort of go through our Powys response to that, and lots of the questions were: do you agree that the wording here is going to achieve government policy? Which is difficult to answer no to, really, because they've written it to implement their own policy. But we did add our own views on those issues which arose there, and submitted quite a lengthy and detailed response. David, your hand up.
Thanks, Chair. Chris, I'm just sort of picking up a bit of a red flag there about pressure with all the changes, McLeod, and I know you appointed the projects officer. But just for context, was that somebody who knows? Was it an external appointment or an internal one, so somebody could do this, get up to speed quite quickly?
It was an internal appointment in as far as they already worked for the council, but it wasn't an internal appointment from within the pensions team.
Okay.
Not within the team. So whilst they haven't got the LGPS experience, they have got experience of running projects and managing data and presenting and whatnot. So we've seen the benefit of that side of it. Yeah, so been a very,
Okay.
very valuable addition to the team, which I think hopefully you'll see when we look at item 14 later on.
Yeah, and it was just, I suppose it's a comment from me, really. I'm just getting a sense that things might be building again because we had a discussion at board a while ago, didn't we? And board, without putting words into colleagues' mouths, we've been supportive of making sure that you've got the right resources. It just feels to me with the various things going on around needing to make sure that you've got sufficient resources from McLeod stuff and so on and so forth. It feels just maybe we need to note it in the minutes. I don't know that there is a sense of pressure there. I'll leave it at that, Chris and David. Thank you. It's just an observation, really.
No, thank you, David. I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Is it fair for you to say who the individual appointed is, Chris? I think David might know her if it's the same one I'm thinking of.
It's a gentleman actually,
Right.
called Daniel Harper. Yes.
Right.
He's come across internally. So I was hoping to bring along the new appointees to the meeting, but I just haven't had time to coordinate diaries and whatnot to be able to bring them along today to introduce them, I'm afraid. But yeah, we've already seen benefit of some additional resource, which will, when we come on to the pension regulator item, that's the first item that hasn't been written completely by me for years. So it's nice to be able to see some benefits of, it's only a small benefit at this point in time, but that I haven't had to completely write all the papers, for example, for this meeting. So it has helped. But yes, I'll note that, David, and we'll come on to that a little bit more as we work through the meeting, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
I'll continue. Okay.
Yeah.
2.7 is just to make board aware that there's been a slight change in approach from the ombudsman when it comes to dealing with overpayments. I think one of the complaints they see from the LGPS is in respect of overpayments and whatnot. So they've produced a fact sheet or a new set of information to try and help members perhaps deal with overpayments before it gets to the ombudsman. So board will be aware that we have an overpayments policy. So when it comes to review, which I think is in 2026, we'll consider the ombudsman's comments and information within that policy to make sure it's all aligned so that where possible, we can try and pick up these cases before they even get to the ombudsman. It's not generally a large issue for us, but it's interesting to see there's been a change of approach from the ombudsman on this matter. 3.1 I won't go into. It's just to say there's been no changes to the expected returns to MHCLG this year. Pension dashboards, and this is actually picking up on one of the comments that we just had, David. So in terms of resource and whatnot, to bring board up to date, we connected to the ecosystem ahead of the 31st of October 2025 deadline. So we achieved our statutory requirement. This section about dashboards is just painting another potential issue that might be coming down the road in terms of this is a brand new system that's available to the public. We don't yet know the impact on the admin resource. It might be small, it might be large, we really don't know. But one thing that we need to be aware of is that now we've connected, if a scheme member logs in and some of the data looks wrong or there's some incomplete on the dashboard, they can contact the fund or should contact the fund to say, this data is missing. We've got a 10-day turnaround to complete that information and resubmit it to the dashboard. So it's important that we have backlogs under control, for example, to make sure that if we get bombarded with a number of queries when the dashboard launches in 2026, that we're in a good place to be able to turn around these queries within the 10 days. So I know the regulator is very interested in dashboards and whatnot as part of their work remit. So it's just to make board aware that this 10-day turnaround is something we'll have to be very, very aware of once dashboards start being used. But so far we've hit the statutory requirements. The proof will be in the pudding once this is launched, really. But I want us to be prepared for that day as much as we possibly can.
That day won't be until the autumn or something.
Yes.
Chris?
Yeah, I think it's expected towards the end of October. So we've got a few months yet to prepare for this. But again, as I mentioned, it's an unknown. We don't really know what impact it's going to have. So, and again, this is industry-wide. We'll have to wait and see.
That impact would be mainly on the admin team, the core processing, etc.
It would.
People you have.
Yes.
Who hopefully will have eaten up most of McLeod by then, so there's a possibility we could be okay.
Yeah, I think we need to look at it. I think so. We've got the project officer looking at caseloads and workloads and everything at the minute, David. So I'll report back on that one. Yeah.
Graham's got his hand up, Chris.
Yep.
Yeah. Just a question really on when that is rolled out and when that 10-day expectation is there. So will there be like can you do like a pilot sort of group or something like that to go on to see what the potential percentage of inaccuracies are, or whether there's a common theme that may help?
Yeah, I think the intention, Gray, is a soft launch. Really, I don't think it's going to be well publicised until they know it's all working and all the systems are in place. But I think we can expect the challenge is probably going to be around incomplete data. There'll be things like match keys, so people put in the wrong NI number or the wrong postcode and it can't identify them, those sorts of things. But I think the biggest issue would be around perhaps a uncalculated deferred benefit. So if somebody's left a job and we haven't yet processed it and they log in and they see, oh, I've got a job here, but it's not our system's told the dashboard that it's not ready for viewing. That could be where the potential question is, well, why is it not there? That inquiry will land with our guys, our team, and we'll have 10 days to make sure that data's there. It might be a case of just flicking a switch or putting a tick in a box, but if we've got to do some calculations, that puts the pressure on the admin team, particularly if there's a large volume that come through when it launches. So yeah, a sort of soft launch, I think, will give us a feel for what sort of queries we're going to get and how we're going to tackle them, I think. Okay. Thanks. 4.1 is just to make board aware that there's some new administration guidance been provided by the regulator. We need to have accordance to what the regulator publishes. So our administration team will refer to that and make sure we update our processes in accordance with that. Some things that are in there, for example, are around business continuity plans and cyber policies that we mentioned earlier on. I'm looking at the business continuity plan as we speak, with a view to try and flesh it out to make it really appropriate and inclusive, so that should anything happen, we know exactly where to go and what to do. So a lot of work is going to go into the business continuity plan over the next few weeks. And that's why I was just a little bit hesitant about the cyber policy before, Chair, because I want to make sure that they all work as a package, essentially. Yeah. So at the right time, I'll bring that to board so board can consider it as well.
Great, yeah.
Resourcing the pensions team, we've talked about that a bit at the minute. It's the key takeaway really is there's still one vacancy. We went out to interview on this post at the end of 2025 and weren't able to appoint. So we're going to go out for re-adverts within the next 4 weeks. So I know the team are looking at that now. So it's been a long process to get people into position for lots of reasons, but we're nearly there now. So hoping that we can try and interview before the month is up, or certainly early March, and get that last vacancy filled. 5.2 is really just to give board assurance that we've now seen the valuation results and the employers have been notified. So everyone's aware of contributions and whatnot due from the 1st of April this year. Can't really say any more as part of the public meeting, except that the valuation report will be made available and published as soon as it's been signed off and whatnot by the actuary. It's been through the Pensions Investment Committee, so they're aware, and obviously discussions with the senior officers, like the Section 151 officer at the council, has taken place as well. And obviously David has been involved in those meetings as well, and I can see his hand is up. So, David?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Chris, that it's a huge job, the triennial valuation, and being involved with several in other organisations. The first one now with Powys, which it's an exercise which takes about 18 months to get this far. And I think we can fairly say that you've broken the back of it by now.
Yeah.
And it's in the hands of the actuary to complete the exercise, really. That December Pension Investment Committee meeting did make the relevant resolutions for us to move forward, or for the actuary to move forward. And I think it's been a successful exercise for both the fund being sufficiently prudent and for employers to have a good result in mainly reduced contributions. And I don't think that's taking on any more risk by the fund, but it's largely due to investment returns having been better than projected over the last 3 years, and no real deterioration in the liability scenario. So it's all good news really on that. So we haven't got much detail in front of us at this meeting, but I've had the full disclosure with the committee, and I've been very grateful for the full sight of that on your behalf, and I can only thank the officers involved and everyone who's been involved in investing on our behalf as well for the comfortable position we have going forward as a fund on the valuation, which I'm sure is much appreciated by Powys Council in the current budget cycle.
Thanks, Chair. So yeah, as soon as that report is signed and available, I'll share it with board as well. It'll be published on the website for access as well. Last item then on this report is just to make board aware that we've had a survey, governance administration survey to complete from the pensions regulator. So I worked in accordance with the pension board chair, again on your behalf, to complete that, and I'm grateful to the board chair for submitting the response on our behalf the end of last week, I think, Chair.
Yeah.
So that's done and dusted again ahead of the timescales and deadlines. So thank you for your support on that, Chair. It was really helpful, and nice to see that we were pretty close in our responses when it came to compiling it separately as well. So
indeed, yeah, we were in agreement on nearly everything, and it was quite useful for me to be involved in Powys, as I was also involved in Merseyside on a similar response, and managed to get some sort of cross-fertilization ideas in some of the responses. So yeah, that was useful. Thanks,
thank
Chris.
you. And that is the end of that report. So that's just for information and noting, please, everybody.
Quite a lot in there. Thanks, Chris. And generally positive, with noting the potential for more pressure of work on the team, but also glad to see that the new resources are in place and people started, and we'll have to see where things balance up perhaps before we go back to where David was mentioning we have to look at resources again perhaps in the future, but let's see how it goes for now, I think. Everybody happy to accept and note the contents of Chris's update?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Diolch. Okay. Can I go back now to my own update, which I omitted before going to Chris? Yeah, after the last meeting the board held on 9th of December, I met Chris online several times during December when we exchanged and amended draft documents to agree Powys's response to the MHCLG consultation, which he mentioned, and we generally agreed on the response to that as well. Several matters in there: the senior LGPS person, officer, which we're in a good place on, other than remuneration, perhaps. The independent person would be an entirely new concept for us and many other LGPS funds, and expectations of members in respect to knowledge and understanding. I think we're there really, apart from formalising that by the government. Independent governance reviews is something which might come up in future. Well, will come up. Not sure when. It's probably going to happen every 3 years. As well as that MHCLG, I managed to put Powys on the map using my title when speaking at an LAPF conference in Windsor last week. And before that, I attended the LGPS Governance Conference in Cardiff alongside Chris. The Westminster Government's review of the LGPS was a recurring theme of both conferences. The LAPF event focused on investment methods and opportunities, particularly pooling, but also covered asset classes, infrastructure and private markets, how those are developing, and the issue of pools providing investment advice for LGPS funds. There is a proposal that some of what in the legislation that some of what Aon provide for Powys at the moment would be provided through the pool, and there's some consternation amongst the LGPS family that does a conflict arises there, but that could be franchised through the pool in Wales to one of the advisory firms rather than building up a team in Cardiff. At least I hope that's the solution. The governance conference covered a range of issues like that investment reforms and advice again, the independent person required on pensions committees, peer support, independent governance reviews, dashboards, and managing cyber risk. Lots of things we've discussed this morning already. During January, as Chris said, we met online and responded to the regulators' survey sent on the 5th of February. On the 20th of January, I represented Powys on the WPP meeting with the other board chairs and discussed aspects of the WPP investment management company's structure and progress, which we'll come to later on in the meeting. Also on 26th of January, I attended a pension committee's briefing call with Jane and Chris on the same topic. And I believe that the 8 constituent authorities pensions committees will formally consider the investment management company delegation on the 24th of February. So we'll cover pooling again with a WPP updates on twice, I think, later on today's agenda. So that I'll draw a line there on my updates. I'm happy to answer any questions. All quiet? Can I take it then? Everyone's happy to accept my update as well?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Okay, we'll skip on then to the TPR Code of Practice. There's a lot of pages on this, and well, let's see.
I'll be specific which ones to look at. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Chair. So this is a demonstration, hopefully, to board, give you some assurances. As a result of the additional resource we've appointed, one of the appointments was in respect to governance. We have a governance and communications officer now. So I've been meeting weekly with the new officer to revisit the Regulators Code of Practice. Just as a bit of background, it was launched nearly 2 years ago, this new code. At the point of launch, I took the time to go through the new code and compare it to our existing position in the old code. Didn't really find any major red flags, any concerns. We were in a good place because of all the work that we put in together prior to then. But there were a couple of things within the code, the new code, that we needed to deal with as quickly as possible. One of those was the cyber policy, which is why it was presented in its draft form at the last board meeting. So this report is essentially just bringing board up to speed, and we'll focus on one part of these group of pages. Don't worry, we won't have to work through every page. Essentially, just to say, I'm now working through this again in a deep dive with the new governance officer. So since the last board meeting, we've been focusing on the administration part of the new code. This report has been written by somebody else for the first time. So this is, again, another benefit of getting this resource. It's only a small thing, but just having somebody else to be able to write the report for me to consider takes a bit of pressure off in terms of preparing for this meeting too. So I'm grateful to our governance officer for preparing this for me. So we focused on the administration part of the code. That's what 3.2 is pointing out, and 3.3. And we identified some areas that we could probably do a bit better. We could strengthen it now than when I reviewed this nearly 2 years ago. So perhaps if we focus on those two items as we work through this report. So the area of focus was on administration, and again, one of those was in how we capture documents. Perhaps if I deal with that now. So one of the expectations of the regulator within the new code is for evidence, links to documents, evidence to say it's all well and good saying why you do something, prove it, and that's a real strong focus of the regulator for all the right reasons. So we've taken this as an opportunity to try and do some knowledge sharing as well. Try and remove some of the key person risk that we found within the fund. A lot of the knowledge sits with the experienced staff. So myself and the pensions administration manager probably make up half the experience within the team. So there's a real risk attached to those two people. So by working through the code and the fact we have to evidence and link things, we've taken the opportunity to kind of use this as a hub for the team. So should a team be interested in the administration process, they don't have to go looking for it now in SharePoint. They can come straight to this document and link straight to the relevant part of SharePoint with the document. The problem with having access to so much data is we've got a lot of processes, lots of documentation. And if it's saved in different areas, sometimes people won't know where to look for it. It's all well and good me looking for it because I've been looking at it for 20 years. But somebody who's new into the door might not know where to look for this. So we've taken this opportunity to try and pull all that together and make this a hub for information for the team, essentially. Try and reduce that key person risk. So that's one of the areas we've really focused on is that trail for the team. But working through this, we also discovered that we are also working with partners within the council. There's areas that we work with employment services, HR, legal, and also finance, quite closely with finance for obvious reasons. And one of the processes we have in place at the minute works, and that's in respect of employer contribution returns. And we know it works because at the December meeting, I think it was, I presented the employer performance for 24-25. So we know that our employers are submitting contributions in time in the main. We might have a few anomalies where people have missed it by a day or two. But whilst we're doing this work, we thought we've got this additional resource now. It's probably the appropriate time to revisit this. Can we do things better? And that's bringing in automation, using potentially AI for if it's a possibility and whatnot. So as we work through this, you'll see that we've identified that there's some areas for improvement here, and we've changed the color coding, the marking, using a red, amber, green status, which we'll come on to. So hopefully that makes sense at this point. I thought what I'd probably do next is just jump into the actual report to show you the area that we've been focusing on. So as we scroll forward, this is...
Just before you scroll forward, Chris, I had I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to mention this earlier, but
that's okay.
I had a bit of a difficulty with the recommendation to note the changes in scoring. When you scroll down to further down, I think there's something that says if you click on the blue squares, it shows you the previous, or it shows the changes. But obviously it doesn't in a sort of report, which is
not a PDF, no.
So I'm not sure how we were to see the changes.
I'll try and so you're right. So this is an interactive tool for us on this end. We click on links and it moves around. This is a PDF output of that tool essentially. So if we go to the administration module, that's the one we've been focusing on. At a high level, there's 4 sort of sections within this module, and we've worked through all 4 of these now in a bit more detail. And we identified within the information handling, we're pretty compliant, but there's some areas that we can improve. And within the contributions module on the bottom right here, again, we're pretty compliant, but there are some areas we'd like to develop. If I scroll on, this is the area where it shows you where it's changed. So it's perhaps this is the first time you'll have seen it presented like this, actually. But hopefully this is an improvement because we've now got somebody in place that can present more information to you. So amber to red, what that is representing, it doesn't give you the detail here, but it's essentially under information handling, so the sharing of documentation, the sharing of skills, we've identified that we can do this a lot better and we should do this a lot better. So by moving it to red, it really focuses the mind. So our governance officer is looking at this as one of their key responsibilities, really, to make sure that evidence works throughout this whole tool. It was previously amber because I probably looked at it and thought, yes, we've got processes in place. That's not enough. The regulator wants more than that now. We've got processes in place which are X, Y, and Z, and tell me how you do it. So that's why it's gone down to red. It's not really a concern because we have got the processes in place, but we need to develop them. So perhaps moving it to red is a bit counterintuitive, actually. It's almost suggesting that we haven't got the process in place. That's not correct. We have. But it was a way for us to reflect within this tool that we're looking at it. We couldn't move it from amber to amber because it wouldn't show on here. It'd just be reliant on me saying, well, it's amber, so we are still looking at it. So it might be that we're happy to move it back up to an amber. Now I've pointed it out to you. But as a way for me to reflect it in a way that you can see it, this was how I had to do it, essentially. So that's essentially why I'm trying to show that. So the changes in the scores, Chair. That's what that comment in the report is referring to. It's referring to these changes here. So again, contributions. We have got process in place. You've seen the scores, but we'd like to develop them and work with our finance colleagues to improve them, which is why we've moved it from a green to an amber again as a visual trigger to board to be able to see. So that's really the reason behind these arrows appearing where they are. Happy to take any questions, and I realise that might be a little bit confusing, but hopefully that does make sense.
Well, that certainly explains it to me, Chris. I'd been looking at the previous sections and not seeing those arrows, so yeah.
There's a lot of pages there. But the key thing for me really is, whilst this is identified as red, I want to try and give board some assurances that it isn't because we haven't got the processes in place. It is because we are developing them, and this is just a visual thing rather than it being something I'm really concerned about. If we scroll up to the information handling module up here under administration, sorry, there are a lot of pages. The comfort you should take is from this, from this high level summary here. There we are. Information handling. We're pretty much up to the right. So we have got a lot of procedures and processes in place. Board should really be spending their time focusing on these high level modules that are in the red or the amber. That's where there's a problem that we need to look at and fix and address. So in the main, as we scroll through these high level scores, you can see that they all tend to be towards the right, because we have got some good governance, good practices, good policies in place, but we really do have to work on evidencing them to share that knowledge. That's a concern I have, is a key person risk within the fund. So this is a way that we're trying to capture that and do that. But this is what I would focus on from a board perspective. These bars are an indication of where we sit or where we think we sit. Using this as an example, the governing body. This is a module that was scored by me when the code was first launched, and I think I did one review. So over 2 years, it's been looked at twice. We meet weekly now to look at these. So it could be that these scores start to move around because we have got more dedicated resource to look at this now and make sure that our compliance with the code is where we need to be. But to try and give you some assurance, I haven't got any concerns about any of this. The area we need to develop is documenting it all, documenting the evidence. So that was really all I really wanted to pull out of this lengthy report, Chair. But I'm aware that this is probably the first time the board have seen it like this. So I'm happy to take any questions or any comments you might have, providing they're focused on either the administration module or the subject as a whole. Really, I'm happy to take any comments or questions you might have. So over to you,
David. First.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Chris, just a question, really. I mean, obviously, if you look at the page in front of us, there are some questions that are red. This sort of links, I suppose, to risk management in a way where you've got a risk appetite. Can I understand? Are you trying to get everything to the right-hand side into the green, or just, I think, for board to understand, is it going to be acceptable for you to move the bar on a risk assessed basis to something that might look towards the middle? Just an open question, Chris. Thanks.
Absolutely valid question, David. Yeah, I don't expect us to be completely 100% in all of these areas. I would expect us to be in the green or towards the amber, but I wouldn't expect us to be right up at the very edge for all of these. That's because some of the questions are perhaps best practice as well. one thing, I think we talked about this when it was first launched, actually, it would be useful if we have a confidential session and work through a module section together so you can actually see the questions that are being asked. But that would have to be in a confidential session because this is a proprietary Aon tool. They wouldn't want that shared publicly, but I'm sure we could probably do that. But one thing that has improved since I last looked at this is, as I say, I'm working through it with the governance officer, but the pension administration manager has also been looking at this. So we have got 3 pairs of eyes now within the section looking at this and assessing it. And that's because all these areas feed into it. It was all well and good me answering it, but now we are sharing that around. So to answer your question in a long-winded way, no, it won't all be green. It won't all be to the right, but it should be in the green.
Yeah, that's really helpful. No, it wasn't long-winded at all. That's really helpful because I think in the future for board, we'll want to understand where you think you need to put your effort, and we can support that through constructive challenge.
Absolutely, thank you. One thing which I haven't covered as part of the presentation, sorry, Graham, I can see your hand up, but if I just cover this, it might answer it, is these are some of the actions that we identified. So things like work was carried out in 2021, but was being revisited in 2024 as a suggestion from the resourcing review. These are comments that I put in as we were working through them previously. Things like consider implementing SLAs. These are comments that we've typed into this tool as we've been working through it. So an SLA, for example, might say something like the employer needs to return contributions to us by the 17th of the month rather than 19th of the month, those sorts of things to help improve service standards. So it's a little bit more detail. It's still really high level. I think it would benefit board, I think, to actually see the nuts and bolts of this so you can get a feel for the questions being asked.
Yeah, I agree. Sometime an informal session might be useful. I think there's quite a lot of it to do it all in one go. Perhaps we could do it in chunks somehow or other, Chris.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah.
Graham, you've been patient.
Thank you. Yeah, it was linked to the page that Chris brought up then, really, and trying to sort of just match through. So page 42, the actual dashboard where it's got the fully compliant 2 out of 4, and as David mentioned around the questions in red. Then you go down to the next page where it's got, and you explain why that one is from amber to red, and but then I think it might not be logical or whatever, but I was expecting then there to be in that information handling part there that if something's moved from amber to red, in my view, without understanding what you said initially, I'd expected there to be an essential action there because it's moved into red.
Yes, yeah, no, I understand, Graham. Yeah, and I think that I could have captured that maybe had I put some stronger wording in this action. It's literally a high-level comment saying let's consider doing this. Right. What I could have said was previous score was amber, but I've changed it down to red because I've discovered this X, Y, and Z. And perhaps a lesson for next time we work through the next module is that we make these actions a bit clearer. Think about it from your perspective, so you understand exactly why I've said that, for example.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's useful. Thank you.
Yeah, fair to say it's still to a degree a work in progress, Chris. That you'll finesse some of those parts of it as you go forward.
Yeah, we will, and that's why this feedback's vital, actually, because at the end of the day, it's being presented to you for your review almost. So you need to have it in a way that makes sense to you, and that you're able to actually give it a fair review as well. So no, it's really helpful feedback, and I'll make sure we consider that when we next meet, which is tomorrow, actually, I think. So. Yeah.
Well, one from me, which is not on the admin bit, is on the governing body one, really, and seeing the first box on governing body, 5 questions in red regarding board structure and activities, which, I mean, we're conditioned to think, oh, we're red, we're in a dangerous place. On the top left there.
Yep.
Do you remember any of those 5 areas of red?
I don't off the top of my head. One thing that I need to consider as well is that there's the option within this tool to separate private and public sectors, and we can make a choice, I think, to switch it on or off. Now we've kept the private sector part in because we think there might be some learnings of best practice. It might not be directly applicable to what we have to follow, but there could be some best practice points within that. So I just need to check that it's not filtering through into this. It could be that something's not applicable, trustees, for example. So I'll take that comment and I'll check. Yeah, it's fair.
Okay. I think you're quite right. Perhaps that some of the stuff the board do in the private sector might be done by the committee and our structure, etc. So it's maybe somewhere there, but
I'll check
that would be somewhere I'd like to catch up with you sometime between the next meeting.
Yeah, no problem. And one of the complications of the regulator bringing out this code in 2024 was a consolidation. We used to operate under Code of Practice 14, which was specifically for public sector. This new code is applicable across the board, so we might find those sorts of anomalies filtering through, but something that I'll check. Yeah, but that was it on this item, Chair. If hopefully that's given you some assurances.
Okay, so the recommendation was to note the changes in scoring, and you've explained those changes on the admin pillar of this, so I'm happy to note those changes. Everybody else in favour of the recommendation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, we can move on to item 9, which is the WPP partnership update. Chris, I think we'll be dealing with some of this later on, but are we doing most of the business as usual stuff here?
I hadn't intended, it's literally presented for information, Chair. I hadn't intended, because it's not a document produced by myself in terms of the appendices, I was going to present them for information and then provide board with an update in the confidential part later on. So I hadn't intended to take any board through any of this apart from just to say it's for information. Is that okay? I will speak on it if board want me to.
No, that's fine. I think we can pick up on one or two parts of it, perhaps, and I'll start off on that just by noting on page 61 that WPP winning a Innovation and Investment Award from the LGC, and I think it shows that there's quite a big drive for innovation and that we have been and are in a good place, and once that sort of justifies us wanting to retain what we have as WPP, I think.
I think that's fair, Chair. I'm just picking out that highlighted line there. It's the third award the WPP has won in 12 months, so it's it's good. Yeah.
And with the risks, we'll cover later the risk of projects not missing timescales, etc. That's something we'll cover in the following session. Everybody happy to accept? There's loads of pages here, and quite a lot of it is unchanged in terms of the business plan, and I think having the papers from Waystone and Russell is much more useful when we have representatives from them to answer questions, etc. But from my part, I'm happy to accept those for now. As I said in my in an earlier, I think it was in the minutes of the committee, that I think some of the investments returns have been perhaps less than stellar, but we're not minded to change at the moment. That's something we can come back to once things have stabilised in the new investment management company, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, no hands up on that, so we'll note the contents with interest and move to item 10, is it, Chris? The standing items.
Yeah.
Which is short and sweet, I think.
It's very short and sweet. Yeah, there's no additional items to add to this. The breaches report is included for board's information, but no new breaches have been added, and there's nothing to update board on. So no, it's just for information again.
Okay. So everybody's happy to note that. And Then we have risk register process, which we have the full shebang presented, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to present the report, Chris?
Yes, of course. Thanks, Chair. So this is presented in a slightly different format at this meeting for board. Again, really to reflect the fact that I've got somebody in the team now who's able to help me and support me with looking at the risk registers in the form of our governance officer. So the focus since they've been appointed, again towards the end of 2025, has been on the code of practice that we've just looked at previously. The intention then is to move into the risk register in parallel to work on both of these important items at the same time. We're not quite there yet. So in terms of the risk, it's just to make board aware that there have been no changes to the scores of the risk registers since it was last presented to board and to committee. But there have been some updates to the periodic risk reviews that appear from time to time. So I've just listed those under 2.2, and those are essentially just commentary saying, this is what it said at the last review. Has anything changed in the process? So really, really high level commentary to say things like the process remains in place. This will be reviewed as part of the valuation. Really, really high level commentary, and no changes to the risk register other than those. But I've captured those in 2.2 as to which risks have had that commentary revisited, and that is just as part of the periodic review. It's not because I've specifically gone in to look at these risks. It's appeared within the schedule of looking at them for regular review. But then one thing that we haven't been able to do over recent months because of various pressures and whatnot is board will be aware that what has previously happened is that at each board meeting we'd look at one of the pillars of the risk register. So let's just say, for instance, the administration pillar, and we'd work through, consider the content and whatnot, and then make any recommendations upwards to committee should we feel the board want to make any changes or want to suggest any changes. What we also used to do was, because we have 3 pillars and 4 board meetings a year, was try and capture a deeper dive review of all 3 pillars in one sitting on an annual basis. And we just haven't been able to do that. So in 2025, we weren't able to do that. So this report really is over to board to see what they want to do in terms of reviewing risk. From an officer perspective, there'll be a deeper focus and more resource put into monitoring and measuring risk at the fund level, because we now have additional resource available. So I thought it felt like an opportune moment to speak to board about what board's views might be on monitoring the risk register as well. So that's why I presented all 3 risk registers today, not with the intention of working through the risks, because I say they haven't changed. Board might feel they want to change some, but it's really to have that discussion as to what board feel is appropriate in managing risk going forward. It might be that you're happy with the existing process. If that's the case, no problem, but we need to make sure we dedicate this additional meeting to having this deep dive, I think, into each of the pillars. So that's essentially what's happened here. This is just presenting to board. We've now provided a governance communications officer. They've been focused on the code of practice. And just this last paragraph here is, in the meantime, board might want to continue with the current approach of reviewing 1 pillar at a time with an annual deep dive at 1 meeting. This is me asking the question, because I've got this additional resource now, do you want to continue doing that, or do you want to do something different? So it's really open to discussion now, Chair. I hadn't intended to look at any of the risk registers in detail. Obviously, I will do that. I'm happy to do that if board want to, but it was really around the process. I was hoping to try and frame this conversation. So over to you, Chair and colleagues.
Yeah, I think I'd be keen to continue with the reviewing a pillar at each meeting. I'm not sure about the wording of deep dive at 1 meeting. I think deep dive means looking at a smaller scope in more depth, which is probably what we do in each pillar, and the annual sort of review of the whole lot is perhaps not a deep dive, but a broader look rather than deeper. But I think the approach of the pillars is quite universal across pension boards. I think some have different pillars, and some have funding as well as separate from investment. I think we put the funding in with the investment. The first risk under investment is whether we have sufficient investment returns to provide funding. And I think that's best placed in there, really. And that's one which is being covered now by the triennial valuation. I'm happy to continue as we are in terms of the approach. Happy to would like to hear what David and Graham have to say, really.
Chair, before we pan over to
Yeah.
David, I've had one more thought as we're talking, if that's okay. As I mentioned, this is going to be a key focus of the governance officer now. So I think there's an opportunity with that person to really to take a point, deep dive into it pillar at a time. So it could be that I sit down with our governance officer now and say, okay, start with a blank sheet. This risk register has been in place in this current format roughly for some time now. I think we should maybe start with a blank sheet here and deeper dive and have a look at this.
Yeah.
So whether that might be of any value, whether we sit and do that, I sit and do that with my governance officer, and then I bring them along and we present a new version of, let's say, the governance pillar at a board meeting and say, look, here's the old one. Here's what we think is appropriate for the new one, because we've got a bit more time to look at it now. What do you think? I'm just conscious that the risk registers have been in their current form for some time now, and the fact I've got somebody who has got experience in governance feels like the right time to just have a look at it all.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. Yeah. Perhaps if they do some research, they may find that they want to take a different approach in terms of the presentation as well. But
absolutely, yeah.
I think we would. I think as a board be definitely interested in seeing if there are any changes in the risk rating for those we have, but it may be presented in a different format. But taking it one pillar at a time with the existing pillars is a logical approach from my point of view.
Yeah. Okay.
Graham or David, are you like-minded on this point? David?
Yeah. Sorry, David. Yeah. I think what I'm thinking is we want to be able to work with the governance officer to add value and sort of discharge the things that we're supposed to be discharging. I think some of the stuff that we previously did, my reflection on that is that it was because there was a bit of a gap, maybe, and that gap certainly wasn't around the registers. We've always been getting very good information, but I'm just keen, Chris, I think, to understand how we can use the governance officer to add value. And it might be that we would want to take a deeper dive on an exception basis only. Just a thought. This is just my own thought on that. I'm not against a deeper dive at a pillar at a time. I think, David, you've captured that really well. I think that's an excellent way to go. But it's making sure that we make the most of the new arrangements that you're putting in place, Chris, because some of the deeper dives that we did before were very, very detailed, and they were very, very helpful. But I would be keen to understand how we can make sure we make the most of using the governance officer to support the work that we do, which means, I suppose, what I'm saying is the approach that we're taking is fine going forward, but it's been running for a while. Let's adapt it and see how we can really make use of it. But apart from that, I mean, the only other question I've got, if I can sneak in one other question, apart from the comment that I made, is the governance officer going to be making use of corporate risk management advice, support, and training, Chris, so they won't be left on their own around this?
Yes. Yeah. So we use the corporate system for recording and measuring risk, David. I think there's different expectations placed on us from the regulator than the council. But yeah, we'll fully make use of the corporate mandatory training and even bespoke training that the council is able to put on. Because I realise from somebody who's not perhaps familiar with the governance as I am, been doing it for a long time, There's quite a lot to jump into be honest. So yeah, that's a fair comment. It's a fair comment.
Yeah,
And also just to pick up your comment about maybe focusing on a couple of risks, maybe those that are on the higher end of risk. I think we've done that before as well. We've looked at the red ones or the higher scoring ones, perhaps. So maybe if I work with the governance officer and we produce a new version of it, it might look similar, but maybe we could focus on the higher scoring risks and work backwards from there. Don't know.
This is all. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and well, Graham will be familiar with the corporate approach as well. So yeah, if we can receive a pillar at a time, similar to what we have been doing, but receive them in a newly looking afresh at these things. It'll be in bite-sized chunks for us and for the officer to deal with by subsequent meetings, I think.
Yeah, might be simple things like this. When I download these reports on a quarterly basis for board and committee, I tend to just default straight to the usual versions of the reports, but there are lots of different versions of the reports available within the system as well. So it could be that I could present it a different way. I think in the past I've tried this. I've used the heat map as well to try and make it visually interesting as well. So I think it's just me saying, look, I've got this resource available. Let's use David's comment. Let's make sure we add value here, and both to governance of the fund, but also to the committee as well, so we can focus their minds.
No, I think it's really important part of our work as a board to see the risks and look forward to seeing a new perspective on them. Okay, so for today, we're asked to note the contents, and we've commented on the process and the future delivery. I think Chris mentioned earlier that the where they've been amended in this appendix, such as admin 7, it's noted there. We could go through them, but I've been through them myself, and I don't think there's anything jumping out at me which requires us to go through those individually. So unless anybody else wants to ask a question, we'll draw a line there with some freedom for Chris and the governance officer to come back to us with a new version.
Okay, thank you.
All happy? Right. So we've just got the future board meetings, which are set out there. I don't think there's any change from the previous noted dates there. We've all had them for our diaries, I think. So we just note the future board meetings in item 12. And in 13, for the subsequent items, I propose the board goes into a confidential session with the public and press excluded in accordance with the legislation. So I think we need to just make a resolution in that direction. So can everybody show hands to be in favour of going to confidential session, please? I can only see you, Chris. I can't see David or Graham.
No, they both got their hands up, I can assure you.
Good, good.
Is that okay, Carrie Ann? Sorry.
Could I just have a formal proposer and seconder as well, again, please?
Yeah, I can propose. Can I carry on?
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm formally proposing we go to confidential session. Do you want me to read out the blurb as it's presented, or take that as read?
I think you could take that as read, Chair. That's fine. Could we just have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll second it, Carrie Ann.
Yeah, Graham.
Okay, I'll just move us across now.